All right, we are live. Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Mansour, and I'm so excited to go through this adventure through Web3 with you. We aim to educate, excite, and challenge this space with a healthy dose of skepticism. We are Crypto Hype Check, where no question is a stupid question.
It is great to be back. Hi, Christine. Hope you are well. Lovely to see you again. It feels like a little bit. So I'm Laurie Keogh, co-host of Crypto Hype Check. And we are very fortunate today to have Chris Liquin with us, who is the head of strategy at VaynerNFT. You may have read a great article on Built It by Chris, where he went through really the importance of NFTs. And that's what we're going to talk about today, all about NFTs, what they are, what they're not, where they are at the moment, and everything in between. So look, without further ado, maybe I will ask Chris to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about who he is, where he is right now.
Awesome. Hey, Christine and Laurie, and hey, all listeners. Great to be on the podcast. Thanks for the invite. As Laurie teed up, I lead the strategy team at VaynerNFT. At VaynerNFT, we are a end-to-end consultancy helping Fortune 500 brands come into the NFT space, the Web3 space, the metaverse, with their eyes wide open, thinking about the space long-term, understanding, how organizations can come in authentic to their brand, but also authentic to the culture of Web3, not only with the strategic perspective, but also being willing to test and learn and activate in this space. So I'm coming in with a background in management consulting, so working on corporate strategy. I think what I've learned is in this space, it's corporate strategy, but it's also crypto strategy. So all the tokenomics, incentive designs around scarcity and whatnot. It's been a fun new challenge. I've been at the company for about 6 months, and we're only about a little less than a year old. So it's been an awesome ride, but it's been really fun so far, and I'm excited what we're bringing to market with our clients.
Awesome. And a quick follow-up on that one, right? Just so our listeners, because they have a broad knowledge from DeFi and a range of other areas. But when somebody, Chris, asks you, what are NFTs? I'd love to learn what you say.
Yeah, I think that the key parallel to think about when you start to get your head around NFTs is digital assets and digital ownership. In the physical world, physical ownership is so easy to understand, right? If I have a pair of Nike shoes, I own my Nike shoes. And if Nike goes out of business, I still have those physical shoes. In the digital world right now, you don't really own much of your digital footprint. If Facebook goes out of business or shuts down their site, you lose all your photos, all your friends. If Gmail shuts down, you lose all your inbox and your contacts and your calendar. If you work really hard in a game like Fortnite, level up and get this incredibly rare, fancy jetpack, you can't really take that jetpack with you when you're done playing the game. If the game shuts down or doesn't upgrade, you're not able to actually own that digital asset. And so what's so exciting about NFTs to me is this idea that you actually own this digital asset. And without going into blockchain technology too much, that's what's enabling you to actually own this asset. And in the future, that asset could be your avatar. It could be a membership card. It could be an in-game item. There's a ton of different use cases for these non-fungible tokens, or simplified version is maybe just a digital asset. But I'm really excited about all the promise that delivers. I think in today's culture, it's a JPEG, but I think it can be a lot more than just a picture, if that makes sense.
Got it. No, it does.
Definitely makes sense. And so turning it back on you, Chris, just more personally and speaking to your background, what was your light bulb moment? When did crypto, blockchain, NFTs, when did that all click for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I kind of slowly got in the space. I was introduced to crypto back in 2016. I had a friend, colleague at work, just mentioned Ethereum to me. He was excited about it. And at that time, to me, it was just kind of like an interesting new asset class that I could, throw a little bit of money at and just, see what happened. It was speculative. And I, of course, wish I'd invested a lot more back then. But it was an interesting thing that I just started to become relatively aware of. And I started reading. I spent most of my research at that time was just on subreddits. There was a great one on Ethereum specifically. And I really had this slow learning process throughout the ICO boom and bust, throughout DeFi summer, and I never like dove right in. It was always just like loosely aware and investing and kind of being interested in. But one thing I saw like throughout that process, I thought about like, could I ever work in this space? And I looked for jobs, and all of the jobs I saw were developer, designer, engineer, a lot of technical roles. And I think what's really changed in the last 12 months, maybe even in just the last 6, is the amount of like business jobs, I guess I'd say. Business, finance, commercialization, marketing, all of those sort of business skills are really starting to enter the space right now. And to me, that's where I felt really good about making the jump into full-time Web3, is just how many new jobs in like business disciplines are coming into the space that, to me, I think we've had a lot of utopian builders building these incredibly ambitious technical problems that, trying to I guess, solve these really difficult societal challenges. And I think with the influx of business skills, we're going to get a lot more practical solutions. How do we actually grow community? How do we actually play nice with regulators? How do we kind of appreciate where big tech is, while also trying to disrupt and change many of the current problems that Web 2 have created. So I'm really excited for what I think will be a real commercial surge in the next couple of years.
Fantastic, right? And what at the top, I mentioned that you work for VaynerNFT, and for some folks out there, they know exactly who that is, but there's probably a bunch of folks who don't. So I'd love to learn a little bit more, if you wouldn't mind, around who Vayner is, and more specifically VaynerNFT.
Yeah, definitely. So we're led by our founder, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Gary is operator, a tech entrepreneur, and investor. And was really early to social media back in the 2005 range. And around that time, he had, seen the promise of social media and how important it would be to brands and to celebrities, to influencers, et cetera, and built a social media agency around that premise. And through those, the last 10, 15 years, has built a 1,500 person organization that advises Fortune 500s on their social strategy and broadly their media strategy. This is sort of the next evolution of that. He said, hey, I'm having those same feelings about the NFT space. I realize that this can be an incredible unlock for marketers, for people with IP, with content that has storytelling potential, that want to build community. Anyone with that sort of set of ingredients, but especially Fortune 500 brands. And so our agency or consultancy is spun up to basically, bring that same playbook to a totally new world of Web3, this new version of the internet. And so we're working across primarily Fortune 500 brands, bringing NFT programs to life, bringing metaverse activations to life, and getting ready for all things Web3.
And look, a bunch of people have probably, seen Gary Vee on different social media clips as he gives his thoughts on, various topics. Personally, I'm a big fan. I like his straight talking. I think it really resonates. What's he like as a person to work with?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been like, I've really enjoyed all the conversations I've had with Gary and clients. I've been really impressed with his depth as an operator and his ability to, on the spot, have really insightful perspectives on the space. He's definitely involved in what we're doing in VaynerNFT, and I get a chance to, co-present with him, to share my ideas back and forth with him. He's been a really good collaborative partner, and I think it's a reason why we've been able to be so successful so far.
Great, I love it. I love the stories, I guess, when you're working where you meet folks and they're working with the leaders or the founders, and you know what, they're true to how they come across on various platforms. So great to hear that. Christine, over to you.
Definitely. Yeah, Chris, so question for you. So all brands these days need a Web 2 or social media strategy, right? So how does Web 3, how does that strategy fit in? And why do companies need to really integrate that into their strategy?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's one that I'm like super passionate about as the strategy leader at our current company. I think what we saw last year in 2021 with brand entrances, so many of them were just for the PR headline, right? They were just, let's put .com at the end of our name and now we're an internet company, or let's drop an NFT and now we're in Web3. And for me, the strategy and the education up front is the most important thing for a brand to consider. I think thinking about not only the marketing moment and the opportunity to get a lot of earned media and to be culturally relevant, and those are real things, right? We definitely want our brands to be thinking about the impact they can have today, but doing it in a way that appreciates the long-term promise of the technology. Because I think, as consumers are spending more and more of their time digitally, they're going to want to have more ownership and more control over their digital assets and their digital identity. And I think brands appreciating that really long-term shift can then get the PR and get the marketing headlines and participate in culture today in a smarter way that shows that they're really here for the long term and not just here for the splashy headlines.
One of the things I guess that NFTs have become synonymous with, for good or bad, are 2D images, right? Bored apes, crypto punks, whatever else it may be. Insert 2D image here. Do you think, I guess, NFTs are a bubble? Is that fair to say, or are we beginning to turn the page as far as kind of page one is ending, and we're opening up a whole new chapter as to where these can go?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll say two things. So the first on that is I get asked this question all the time from clients. Is our NFTs the next Beanie Babies? And I think Beanie Babies were a fad, but stuffed animals are an $8 billion industry. And I think there are plenty of NFT collections today that, are definitely valued on hype and sentiment and current relevance and meme potential, not on fundamentals. And I think we'll certainly see many collections struggle from a price perspective, as the market, decides they're no longer the hot thing of the day. That said, I think we are, very on a daily basis seeing new approaches to NFT collections, new approaches to using NFTs, integrating it into other platforms, using it to build loyalty and membership, building new incentive structures with tokenomics. So I think we're so early on that adoption curve and so early on the innovation curve that, thinking the 2021, 2022 profile picture, static image JPEG is all NFTs are, I think is I mean, quite frankly, wrong, but I think it's also not appreciating how much more there is. I think some of the things that we'll do with NFTs in 10 years, we can't even imagine yet because the technology is so new. So, I think people aren't wrong to think there's a bubble here. But I think the category itself will continue to be developed on and super compelling.
Yeah, I hear some people say, and you talk about how, NFTs will be a thing where we're all using them or we all have them, but it may not even be the case that people know it. So we go to buy a ticket to a game, to a sporting event, to a concert, or whatever it may be, and actually it will be an NFT, and that will be the way that things of great scarcity are issued. So to prevent counterfeiting, as the case may be. But yeah, look, I definitely tend to agree with you there.
No, I think it's a good point. And the ticketing example is a really good one too, to highlight how NFTs can also change the incentive structure for the original creator. Right now, let's say Taylor Swift offers her concert tickets for $100 and they sell out immediately. Suddenly, they're being sold on StubHub for $500, $1,000 per ticket. And Taylor Swift and the artist, the original artist doesn't share in any of that secondary revenue. And I think what's really interesting about NFTs and smart contracts is as those really valuable tickets are then sold on secondary and the market says they're not worth $100, they're worth $800. An artist like Taylor Swift could take a small percentage of that secondary market. And I think all of those, secondary activities going back to the creator in some sense, really compelling business model for creators, for artists, for musicians.
100% right. And for me on that one, that's a light bulb moment for folks in the NFT space that didn't realize the technology can enable those scenarios, and in a seamless way. Because I think if we, we look at music, artists are supposed to get royalties, but it's complex and very time consuming. So they get some money, but it may even take years. So if there's a way to do that in a much more streamlined way, I think there's a big captive audience as to, this sounds good, tell me more.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of the disinterest or skepticism is usually because folks haven't done the research. So I always recommend a lot of research to really understand what's happening, and usually that helps start to have those light bulbs go off.
Definitely. And that actually parlays into our, key question of our podcast, which is the hype check. We just want to cut through the hype. And we touched on a lot of different use cases, but I'm curious, Chris, in your conversations with clients and as you're, going through the strategy, what type of hype are you constantly trying to just help mitigate and then really cut through and present actual use cases?
It's a great question. One of my clients coined the phrase that, we as an organization, we have meta FOMO about the metaverse. So everyone is afraid that they're not participating in the metaverse yet, or we're seeing all these headlines about the metaverse, or what is the metaverse. So I love that meta FOMO about the metaverse.
Love it.
And I really believe that there is a huge promise that the metaverse will unlock. And I think we have to appreciate sort of the metaverse of today. And that's one thing that we're constantly changing our own perspective on at VaynerNFT. But we do think, consumers, I guess I'll back up even further. Humans want to communicate their identity through usually what they buy, right? This has happened for decades, for centuries, thousands of years. Humans want to be able to show their identity by the things they wear, the things they purchase, the things they hang on their walls. And I think as we spend more and more of our time digitally, we're still going to want to have that same expression, self-expression, in digital medium. So very bullish on the overall metaverse. We'll see sort of how that plays out. Today's metaverse is a combination of Twitter and Discord and different, social platforms or metaverse gaming, almost like virtual worlds in the gaming sense. So that's one where I think you want to cut through some of the hype on the metaverse and figure out what you really believe in. I believe in the long-term premise, but the current metaverse is definitely leaves some things to be lacking, but it's being, again, innovated so quickly.
Awesome. So yeah, I love that meta FOMO. I'm definitely going to steal that. Right. I'll tag you when I use it. One of the other things we wanted to talk about is, without sharing, and we're not looking for insider information, and we're not looking for financial advice, but what are you most excited about at the moment, or looking forward to in the next couple of months?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, NFTs beyond static images are really compelling. And I think the brands entering the space, the new projects that are entering the space with just sort of a different take, whether that's, using NFTs as achievement badges that signify you've done certain challenges, and then your NFTs are upgrading over time, whether it's interactive NFTs where instead of just being an image or a 3D model, you're able to, move it around or actually play a mini game, as you're looking at it through OpenSea. There's I think the use cases for NFTs are just being explored right now, and anything that isn't just a static image to me, super compelling, really excited about. And I think that's going to be what defines this next wave of NFTs. Even music NFTs would be a great example. We haven't really unlocked the right way to involve the music industry in NFTs yet. It's been very focused on visual art. So I'm excited for anything that's sort of pushing that envelope forward and sort of redefining what is an NFT.
Definitely. All right. So do you have any advice for our listeners and viewers of, the top events to go to in the next 3 to 6 months?
Well, I think VCon is coming up May 19th through 23rd. That's for VFriends holders only, but super excited about that one. NFT NYC is sometime in June, I think mid-June. I'll be speaking there. And then aside from those two, VaynerNFT is doing an awesome team offsite in New York. So we're going to get the whole team together in New York. Maybe you'll see us on the streets wearing our VNFT hoodies, but I couldn't be more excited to get our full team together in one place to have a little team bonding.
Excellent. Right. We'll see if there's any of those spare hoodies for for Christine and I. And definitely we'll hopefully see you in New York for NFT NYC in June if you guys are there. Would love to connect. When you have downtime, Chris, which I'm sure is limited, and when you're kind of scrolling on Twitter, who do you follow, or who do you follow on LinkedIn or Instagram, right? Who are people that I guess inspire you, or you really feel you need to stay plugged in?
Yeah, I'm so lucky to have, a team of whatever it is, 40, 50, 60 coworkers who are so deep in this space. They're almost my best source of information. Avery, our president, is so deeply into the space herself and is an awesome source of alpha, and I think the whole team is worth following. So if you find any VNFT folks on Twitter, Alan Henna is a great example. I'm learning new things every day from just the team. As far as in the market, there's so many great folks to follow. I think anything that A16Z puts out, it's a venture firm in the space, usually really well considered and really helpful, and really usually very practical and applicable. I've always liked Zeneca33. I'll give him a shout out because he's a thought leader in the space, did very well, has a lot of lessons from his career in poker, and also follows a kind of data-driven approach, which I like. I think anyone that's coming at it from sort of an analytical data perspective and not a hype meme culture perspective is interesting to me, just given my personal background and interest in data and analytics. I'm trying to think of a couple good examples for listeners. I guess I would say, the key phrase in the space is do your own research. And I think the best thing to do is to just get on crypto Twitter, follow everyone, and make your own conclusions. Because I think, to be honest, most people are learning out loud on these platforms like Twitter, and you should just learn along with everyone and kind of make up your own conclusions, if that helps.
Yeah, great call. And look, I'm a big fan of Andreessen Horowitz, and so for folks out there, yeah, I think one of the best things, or one of the first things that I try and kind of share with people when they get into this space to learn a little bit more is that crypto price innovation cycle. So to think of crypto not as today, tomorrow, or weeks, but to look at it in cycles over a decade. So actually, I think it's a great idea to see if we can nab somebody from there to bring on our show at a later date. But yeah, back to you, Christine.
Yeah. So Chris, last question: how can people follow you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I'm Chris Liquin on LinkedIn. Within recent weeks, I've doxed myself on Twitter. So I had an anonymous account that I started last summer specifically for crypto Twitter. But I'm Bobby Quinn on Twitter. I post a lot of analytics. I've slowed down recently because work is getting crazy, but I definitely have plans to be a lot more active on Twitter. So you can find me at Bobby Quinn there. Those are, the LinkedIn and Twitter. Those are probably the two best channels to find me.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today and all of your insights. I know it's just so helpful. This space is continuously progressing each day, and it's great to talk to thought leaders like yourself. So I know I learned a lot.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you both for having me on. I really appreciate the invite, and really passionate about what you guys are doing, which is, helping cut through the signal from the noise and helping make, it easy for new folks to get in the space and understand, the promise of the technology. So really, really appreciate the time that you guys took in chatting with me.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
All right.